Welcome, everyone, to episode 23 of Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. Thank you so much for joining us. It is wonderful to have you with us, and it's wonderful to have Rachel Luttrell in the wings here. She's going to be joining us momentarily. Before I bring her on, I do want to advise what's going to be happening. So in this episode, we're going to have Rachel in. I have a line of questions for her, and then I'm going to invite people in the live chat to ask their questions as well. And then after the show, we're going to have some Stargate art from the fan community to show off, and I'll also be sharing the lineup of guests that we have for next week. But before I bring Rachel in, if you like Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean a great deal if you click the like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. These actors are working, and so, things shift all the time. So this will be key if you plan on watching live. And clips from the live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and gateworld.net YouTube channels. And without further ado, I have the privilege of bringing in one of the most talented actresses to grace the Stargate pantheon, Miss Rachel Luttrell. Hello.
Hello, David.
It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you too. I'm honored to be sitting here. I'm very honored that you asked me to be here. So.
I have had the privilege of knowing you since the first season of that extraordinary journey of Stargate Atlantis. And we talked a little bit during GateCon, the GateCon reunion episode on YouTube about. And I was really impressed with your thoughts on how the fan interaction, fan involvement from the show, the fan feedback has been just so extraordinary over these past, 15, 16 years now? How the content from this series and franchise has changed people's lives for the better in so many ways. How often does a piece of art transcend, more than just the time and place that it was created and continue to ripple positively throughout time?
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And it always does astound me. And I'm always so deeply moved when I hear from fans about, as you said, how the show has changed their lives, how it's influenced them in really, really positive ways. And it's just amazing. And it continues to do so. And that's also thrilling and wonderful. I feel very, very honored to have been part of this. So honored.
Were you aware when you started that it was going to take on the legacy that it has? Because SG1 was already going for 7 seasons at that point. That in itself is tremendous, and then you were coming in to do your own thing.
Yeah, yes, it is. And no, I had no idea. I mean, I was so naive. I was so naive about the entire franchise, really. I didn't know a lot about SG1. I had seen the movie like 1,000 years ago as a kid, and I remember being like really intrigued by it, but that was pretty much all I knew. And I'm happy that that's the case, because it's nerve-wracking enough to pack up your life and move to another city and to take on this new part and to meet all these new people, blah 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 blah. But if I had known of the gravitas that that was attached to it, I think I would have been debilitated almost.
A lot of the people that we talk with, they're like, I'm really glad I didn't know as much as I did about it, because I couldn't have done my job.
Precisely.
It would have gotten in the way.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I'm glad that it just kind of slowly revealed itself to us, and it and moment by moment, it became something that was like, as we were just saying, it's just like an extraordinary extension of what it was that we were doing. I mean, we perform in front of a camera. as actors, obviously we perform on the stage every once in a while, but we're usually performing in front of a camera. You don't really get any kind of that interaction. You do your best job. You try and do your best work. You service the role. You service the story, but you don't really know, how that ripples. And the fact that Stargate has had this incredible ripple effect, and that the fans are so loyal and that the fans are so lovely. We've got the best fans. We've got the best fans. And it's wonderful. But I had no idea. I had like zero idea. And I remember our first convention, everybody was so nervous. We were all like, what is happening? We were just like, we had no idea. We had no idea. But, we became to understand that the fans are just, they come from this place of, oh my gosh, such generosity, that it just can't help but fuel you. And eventually, it was a wonderful thing that helped buoy all of our performances, really.
I want, with this series, to make it a place on YouTube where people can go. And I mentioned this to Flanigan a few weeks ago, where I intend for this show to be a kind of oral history of the Stargate franchise, where people who, in future generations who haven't even discovered it yet, can come to this and find out more specifics about a lot of the individual episodes. It's my hope to go through every episode of the show with each of the performers who made those episodes what they are, and leave a lasting legacy on YouTube that people can come back to and say, oh, you know what, I want to learn more about Tracker, or I want to go into, I want to learn more about the Queen. What were Rachel's thoughts on the Queen? All this is to say that it's my hope to have you on in future episodes so that we can go into more deeper minutia about the arc of this amazing character and her contribution to not only to Atlantis but to sci-fi fandom as well. So I'm hoping to have you back in 2021.
I'd love to.
Before we get into shoveling into this, I I just came back from, I live in Phoenix. I just came back from Florida. I don't know if it's a regional thing or not, but my mom had, I don't know what channel it was on in her room, and we were watching TV, and this commercial came on. And
oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
So, well, not necessarily, well, maybe, but maybe not. So this race car driver gets out of his car, and it turns to this kid, and I'm like, is that Caden? I was like, I think that's Rachel's son. And then another commercial came on, and you were there too. And I was like, wow, it's a whole family affair.
Oh my
gosh.
It's
a Domino's commercial.
Let me correct you. That is actually our little girl. So Caden.
Really?
Oh, well, yeah. Listen, Caden is now my height and has a deep voice. He just turned 13.
Oh my gosh. So I got the kids wrong, but the family right. Isn't that interesting?
Family right. Yeah, that's little Ridley. And I'm so proud of her. That was actually her very first job. Both of my kids have expressed some interest in the performing arts, and they both had to beg me before I actually pursued it for them, because I know how hard this profession can be.
It'll kill you if you're not careful.
It's a profession. But, while they enjoy it, I'm here to support them. And that was her first job.
Aww.
And they asked if I wouldn't mind being on camera. And I was like, sure, why not? I'm there anyway, just to make sure that she's okay. I was so proud of her. I was so proud of her. She just, she delivered her lines like a champ. She even had to do some lines in Spanish. She's not a Spanish speaker. And she was like, wow, we got a really lovely artist. Yeah, she just was like, so I don't know. She might end up, going places that I know she'll end up going places that I can't even imagine, but she's really good.
You see a lot of this now, like with Jim Gaffigan. He does commercials with his own kids, and that's, I think, like a really great way. Well, A, it helps them pay for their college.
There is that. Hello.
But B, it's a great way to get introduced to that kind of world, because the commercial auditions can be just as difficult as anything else, based on what I've heard. And in that kind of situation, like as with Gaffigan, you're there with them. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's
it's
a
pretty fun.
nurturing, there's a safe space almost.
Exactly, exactly. It was a very, very special experience, and I'm glad that it's, forever, documented for us to, yeah, for us to have and share. It was really fun.
You think
Yeah.
that's it for her, or do you, or
No, oh
okay, good.
no,
So
no.
she didn't say, I'm like, you know what, I'm done. I've done it
Oh
now.
no.
Okay,
Oh
good.
no, no. Ridley is like, when's my next audition? When's my next audition? Listen, before I came on the show with you, I was actually editing a voiceover audition that she just like knocked out of the park. And
Oh,
prior to that,
great.
she's just like, I mean, I'm a proud mama, but I really do think that my kids are kind of taking it to the next level. They're just, yeah, no, she's definitely going to pursue this at least for the next couple of years. She really loves it.
Absolutely. And especially, was that recorded since this whole COVID business started?
Yes, it
Okay,
was.
so you
Yes,
guys are
it
making it
was.
work. That's terrific.
Oh, yes. Happily, my husband is back at work. We're here in Georgia, as I
Mm.
told you prior to us, joining everybody else. And we're just down the street from what used to be Pinewood Studios. They now call it, I think
Yeah.
it's called the Trillis Studios. They've changed the name, but it doesn't matter. That's where all of the Marvel
Yeah.
productions are filming. And my husband is currently the fight coordinator for the new Loki television series that will be streamed on Disney Plus.
Wow.
And he's been working, which is great. So, the
Yeah.
industry is slowly moving back, but they are getting tested 3 times a week.
Mhm.
It's just like, 40 some odd COVID tests. It's pretty
And they're not
taxing.
pleasant tests at that. So,
Not pleasant tests, but
well,
he's working. And yes, as you said, we're making it work. So that's good.
Martin Wood, we had him on, and he was talking
Oh,
about how they have watches that go off after you're within someone's proximity or bubble, too close.
right.
Every production that's allowed to operate is finding a way
Yeah.
to make it work. It's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting to see what happens to LA over the course of the next several months of this, for better or for worse. I can't dispute how they specifically are. They have to handle it however they're going to, but at the same
Right.
time,
Right.
there's some people that have no choice but to work. And what are you going to do? So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next several months in 2021. If
Right.
this thing takes longer than we fear that it will.
Yeah, I mean, oh God, what a year! What a year we've been going through. I
I
mean, this
know.
is something that we're going to be processing for
Yeah.
so long. And I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Obviously, the vaccine is close to being ready, but they're saying that it's going to take like several months for them to get all of our first line workers not
Yeah. They come first.
vaccinated. They're going to be first, so it's probably not going to trickle down to the rest of us until, I don't know, this time next year. So
Yeah.
so this is something that we're going to have to, yeah, face for the
Learn
next
to
little
deal
while,
with,
for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, deal with.
Well, it's
Yeah.
fantastic that you're geographically in a place, that's
Right.
working and affords opportunities. So,
Yeah,
got to
thank
count
you.
your blessings.
Oh my
So,
goodness. Yes, yes. And I do. I so do. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Rachel, you and I have talked about your background in terms of you come from a family that was always singing and harmonizing,
Yes.
in the car and dancing.
Yes. Yes.
Where are you? But where are you from specifically? What part of the world are you from? And who were you as a young person, and how did that launch you into what you became as a professional actor?
Oh, what a lovely question. Thank you so much. That was such a thoughtful question. I'm from Tanzania, which is in East Africa. If people want to figure out where that is geographically, it's Indian Ocean, it's Mount Kilimanjaro, it's the Serengeti. So it's kind of like where people zero in when they want to go on their, safaris. And my mom is from there. All of her family still lives there. I was born there. My dad was from Louisiana, Shreveport, and yeah, we grew up in Toronto. So I lived in Tanzania until I was about 6 years old. Moved to Toronto with my very thick East African accent. We do have recordings of me and I'm blown away. It's like, But listen, I was shy. I was always a shy kid, but I was kind of a goofball, which kind of, they're like polar opposites. But when I came out of my shell, it was like really kind of goofy. I always had like this, like I would be like super, super shy, and then they'd pull the camera out and I'd be like, oh, or something like really like ridiculous. So, I mean, that's kind of, where I got into it. And as you said, my whole family sings, and I danced for many, many years, and we played instruments, and my father was an academic, but he sang in the opera chorus in Toronto in the Mendelssohn Choir. And so he had a beautiful, beautiful tenor voice. And so he helped all of us with our singing voices, and helped us to have this amazing connection with music and the arts. It really came from Dad, as well as my mom. And even though they were not, professionally in the entertainment industry, they always supported our desire to be in this industry. We didn't grow up with parents who were like, over my dead body. It was like, well, if that's what you want to do, absolutely, we 100% support you. Absolutely. I mean, most families are like, you want to do what?
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. It's
hard industry, and the chance of success is, of success enough to pay your own bills is not always the best.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It really isn't. It's a pretty ruthless industry. It's so funny because on the one hand, it's such a beautiful industry, and it transforms so many people, and it touches people, and it moves people in so many wonderful ways. But it can be very disheartening as a performer to try and get work. I mean, you can be at the top of your game, but if you don't fit the bill, you're not going to get the roles, and it can be
casting subjective.
Precisely. Yeah. And in the end, it is a business. But my very first experience on stage, I was in elementary school, maybe like grade 2, and I had to sing this like little song at Massey Hall. Those of you who are in Toronto, in any case, will know where Massey Hall is. It's like this venerable theater that's been there for like 100+ years. And I was so nervous, and I got pushed out to sing, and I opened my mouth, and it's this like, I will never forget it. It was this incredible experience where I felt, even as a little person, this connection between myself and the audience. It was like this, this art can bring us all together. It's like we have this shared experience, even though it's one person performing, everybody is a part of it in this incredibly energetic way. And I remember just feeling that and thinking that this is something that I want to definitely pursue. I didn't know how the heck I was going to do it, but it was that. It was like the feeling that, my gosh, we can all be connected in this amazing way. And then, as an adult, I love the experience, the collaborative experience of theater and television and film. It's I love it. It's something that it's just always been a part of me.
There is something about getting up on a stage and taking on a responsibility that forces you to transcend outside of yourself in a way that is like, did I just do that? Is that me?
Yeah.
I can't do that,
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to put yourself on display in front of other people, even when inside you, I've got the talent to do it. It still takes some nerves.
Oh goodness. And I mean, listen, I am as grown as anybody can be at this point in my life, but I still get nervous. I just think it's just, I still get nervous. I've done it so many times, but it's still this, absolutely. It's this enormous responsibility that you have. But at the same time, when you do manage to like plug into this ephemeral thing, it's amazing. It's just amazing. And I don't know. I mean, I think in many ways, it's the human condition. It's like we forget that we're all kind of one. I don't want to get all woo, but I mean,
we're social beings.
We're social beings, and we're beings that need story. I mean, story to help make sense of our worlds and our lives, and and we've known that for thousands of years. So we've been telling stories for thousands of years, and we've had theater for thousands of years. But it's this incredible, beautiful experience, and I just immediately fell in love with that. Yeah.
Rachel, we've kind of established this a little bit. Certainly sounds like your folks are going to be a big part of this answer. Who are your heroes? Who are the people who really helped chart your course? Expectedly, unexpectedly, people who, when you look back on your life and the signposts and the forks in the road of your particular path really pointed the way.
Well, I mean, listen, 100% my parents, 100%. They were just, listen, I just had the best parents. I lost my dad a few years ago, but as I told you prior to this interview, my mom lives with us now, so which is wonderful. But they were always so supportive, always like, you can do it, always, dream big. There was never a moment where they were kind of like, I don't really know if you've got it. So that really helped me to dream bigger because my roots were so strong. And then I had some wonderful teachers along the way. At times in my life where I doubted myself, I doubted my own talent, I doubted if I even had a right to dream, for what I wanted. And I had these really wonderful teachers along the way who would just remind me that yeah, I did have the right. Not only that, but I had, something. I had something. And, and then I had some wonderful friends as well who are still friends of mine. I've been very, very lucky to be surrounded by some really wonderful people, some beautiful, just heartfelt people who are also performers, etc., who've just supported me throughout my life. And as I said, very, very lucky to have some wonderful teachers as well. But my foundation came from my parents, 100%.
What role outside of Atlantis would you say, it's not, I really should have asked this to you before we came on, so I do apologize. But what role do you really think has stretched you as a human being in ways that you didn't expect, that you were privileged to play and gave you some surprising, unexpected surprises?
Right. Wonderful question. I started my career in theater. I started my career singing and dancing and being on like the big stages, the Broadway stages. And that was certainly very transformative. And I was an understudy in Miss Saigon. And, I was an understudy for Ellen, the American Wife. And this is like going way, way back, like near the beginning of my career. But I the first time that I got to go on, I found out like 2 hours before curtain call that I was going to be going on, and the stage didn't work. Like it's this like huge show where like, the props move in on these different tracks, and it didn't come down. So it was like this bare stage. And I remember being, just absolutely terrified by it. But I remember stepping onto the stage and, having nothing to perform with the exception of my voice and the other character on stage. And I remember that being super transformative, just in the sense that, as we were saying, art kind of transcends so many things, and that I just felt so laid bare in front of everybody. That was certainly a character and a moment for me. And then, I got to play some other wonderful characters on stage. I got to play this character in a play called Las Meninas, which was by Lynn Nottage, who went on to win the Pulitzer Prize for theater, for writing. And that character was really amazing and wonderful as well. She was a character from history who was a biracial child born of nobility, but through kind of embarrassing means for the nobility. And I got to, that was a transformative experience for me, just to be on stage and to portray her. I mean, listen, I've had so many and so many diverse characters, from musical theater to just straight plays to, um, to television and to film. It's hard for me to pull out just one.
Mm.
I feel like they've all kind of influenced me and helped me grow in different ways.
Had you seen the feature film or SG1 before auditioning for Teyla?
I had seen the feature film.
Okay.
I knew hardly anything about SG1, and I'm very happy that that's the case. But I had seen the feature film, and I had been like really moved by it. It struck a chord in my imagination. Years before I ever auditioned for Stargate. I grew up in a family that really really loved science fiction. My dad loved science fiction, so it was something that was we would watch and enjoy, and we would read. So I do remember that film for sure, but I didn't know about SG1, or at least like the extent that it was,
Right. Otherwise, like we said, it would have made
yeah.
it more difficult.
Oh, so much more difficult.
Were you in Toronto at this point? Or were you in Vancouver?
Sorry, when I saw the movie,
when you were preparing before the audition process, were you already based in? You were where?
I was in Los Angeles.
You were in LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was already in LA,
Okay.
and I had been in LA for actually quite a few years. I'd done a number of pilots and guest stars, and my career had kind of gone up and down. I'd been like, I don't know, maybe I should just give it all up and become an architect. And it's so funny, like in my career, when I announced that's it, I'm done, like something happens. And I remember just before I auditioned, telling dear friends of mine that that was it. I'd had enough. I'd had enough of Los Angeles. I'd had enough of just banging my head against the wall. And I auditioned, and lo and behold, there I was.
With Teyla. Wow.
Teyla, yeah, with wonderful, wonderful Teyla. I loved playing Teyla.
So you auditioned from LA and sent a tape up?
No, actually, I auditioned in person.
You did?
I first of all, I auditioned with the casting agent. I auditioned with Ivy Eisenberg. And actually, that's a hilarious story, because I got to say, I went in, I met with Ivy first, and I've always been like an artist in terms of like really working on my lines, et cetera, et cetera. When I came in and I did the read, and she was like, Rachel, that was wonderful. That was probably the best read that I've had. I'm going to bring you back. You're going to meet the producers, but I'm going to need you to do this. You're going to need to wear, and she was like, you're going to need to wear some heels. You're going to need to wear a push-up bra. You're going to need to, she was just like, she was coaching me through, because I think I kind of came in and I was like, like, I don't know what I was wearing, but it was not right. She was like, you gotta sell it, girl. And I guess I did. But she was just like, please, this is, yeah, what you're bringing is amazing, but you also have to bring it.
Yeah.
I think at that point I was like over bringing it. I'm like, God, Hollywood, I don't want to have to. But anyway, it's okay. That's also part of, listen, it's part of the industry. It's an industry, It's a business, so you have to play the business angle as well. But yes, I was in Los Angeles. I auditioned in person. And I, everybody shook my hand at the end of my, it's called a test. You test for the network. And everybody was just like, and I thought it was a seal deal. And then a week passed, didn't hear anything, another week. And then I heard that I didn't get it. We were like, sorry, Rachel, it's gone another way. I'm like, that's it. I knew I should have given up. But I went on to a bunch of other things. And then out of the blue, it was like, they do want you up there. I had like 3 days to get myself up there before they started filming the pilot. It was just like, oh my God, my God. Yeah. So
they just went another way with the character, or something wasn't working?
No, and I've never asked. You can ask,
Oh, I will.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't. I had thought it was a done deal. I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. It just feels so amazing. Everyone just and then I didn't get it. And I auditioned with Joe. Joe and I, Rob. Yeah, we auditioned together. Yeah.
Wow. So for the network test?
For the network test, yeah. Yeah, it's the first time I met him. I met him in the waiting room. And I went in and I did a little scene on my own, and then they had the two of us come in. They wanted to see about, chemistry. Do they work well together?
Was he a lock at this point?
I believe he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. He already was. Yeah. So, and it went great, but who knows?
Wow. Yeah. We talked with Rainbow a couple of weeks back, and he had literally like 72 hours before he had to fly from Toronto to Vancouver. So did you do a Vancouver to LA commute like Joe did, or did you settle in Vancouver at that point?
I settled in Vancouver. I mean, Joe had a family,
Yeah.
and he already had his kids and they were in school, blah blah blah. For me, it was just me and my sweet little dog Nala.
I remember Nala.
Yeah, right. You remember Nala?
Yeah.
It was just the two of us. So, every once in a while we'd drive down, but no, we didn't do the crazy commute. I bought a house. That's where, Vancouver is where I met my husband.
Yeah.
That's where Caden was born. Caden still very much considers himself to be a Canadian. And he is. He's a Canadian citizen. But, I settled there. I lived in Vancouver for 8 years. 8 years of my life. Yeah. Oh, maybe 7 years. 2 years after the show ended, I was still pretty much there. And then we moved back to Los Angeles.
It is a great city to spend time in. Once this thing is all said and done, if you get the chance, if you've not had a chance to visit, I completely recommend it. And it took me forever to go up there and actually look around, because every time I would go, I was in studios with you guys. And everyone's like, oh, you've got to see such and such. You've got to see such and such. I'm like, there's no time. I'm booked for interviews wall to wall when I'm up here. So, and then I eventually started discovering the city, and I was like, this is a wonderful city with all kinds of divergent little aspects to it, little boroughs where there's different groups of people, different kinds of food. And it's a great place to live. So yes, I would have to imagine. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fabulous city. And, every once in a while they're like places that I used to go to that I really, really miss, and like just lovely restaurants and the walks that I used to go on, etc. It is a wonderful city. The one thing that I didn't love about Vancouver is that when it got dark, it was dark.
Yeah.
I remember I would go back and forth on occasion with Caden back to Los Angeles. And I remember on this one occasion we came back and we stepped out at I think it was 8 a.m. in the morning to go for a walk. And it was so dark. And I remember little Caden stepping out and saying, "No, mommy, night." I remember being like, "Oh, sweetheart, no, it's not night." It made no sense. Oh. But other than that, it is an extraordinary city. It's beautiful. It's like the Emerald City.
Yeah, in many respects. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have been privileged to know so many of you guys over the course of these several years. It's such an eclectic cast of talent that came together for this wonderful show. Tell us about working with Joe.
Oh, about working with Joe.
Mr. Flanigan.
Mr. Flanigan. Oh my gosh, Joe. I mean, listen, I have a soft spot in my heart for everyone that I worked with, everyone. And, we became like a family in so many ways. I love Joe. Joe was awesome. Joe loved his newspapers.
He did.
Joe, liked to joke around a little bit. He has this wry sense of humor. And sometimes you're like, wait, what did you say?
I know.
Was that a joke? Yeah. It was lovely working with him. Yeah. He's a lovely guy.
Tori Higginson. You guys were the two female is Leeds correct to say? Are all of you considered how I've never been very good on the nomenclature.
Yeah. I mean, in the industry is you're like number 2, number 3, number 4
Yeah,
on
the
the
call
cast,
sheet. Yeah.
on the call sheet. Tori was I believe like number 2 for a
Wow.
while. Tori's wonderful. Tori is warm and kind and sweet. She has this beautiful, youthful quality to her that's just heartfelt and lovely, as well as being super grounded and strong. And I loved working with her. Just a wonderfully generous person as well as generous actor. Yeah, she's lovely. I haven't seen her in a long time. The last time I saw her was Los Angeles, and I went to her house in LA with Caden, just Caden, and hung out for a minute. It's been a while, but she's lovely. She's just a lovely human being and a wonderful actress.
David Hewlett.
David. I mean, David. David is, David loves to paint himself as this, like, curmudgeonly, guy who's like, but he's got this huge heart. He's just got this enormous heart. I mean, that's what I know about David. David is just, he's just a really sweet and kind guy. And he's a consummate professional. I take my hat off to him all these many years later for being able to handle the dialogue that he got given.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and to handle it with such poise. I love David. I love David. He's just got a huge heart, wonderfully talented, hilarious sense of humor. As much as he likes to pretend that he's this curmudgeon, he cares deeply.
Yeah.
And if you're a friend of his, you're lucky to be a friend of his.
Rainbow, when we talked with him, he made a point to say how close he was with you and Paul. That it really got him through some days. Talk about a little bit about Rainbow St. Franks.
Ah, sweet Rainbow. I remember meeting Rainbow like the first day that we were on set, and I remember like immediately being drawn to him. He's younger than me, and I just felt like a big sis to sweet Rainbow. Just a delightful spirit, just a delightful, kind spirit. And yes, when we got together, the three of us, it was just like it created this like funny little effervescent bubble where we would just constantly when you meet someone and you can meet somebody immediately and you're like, oh my gosh,
it works.
You get me. I can say that, and there's a twinkle in your eye, and you know what I mean. Well, we had that thing, and it would be great. It was like we had this shorthand, and it would get us into trouble on occasion because there would be things that would just crack us up, and thank goodness for that. And yes, we really did help each other get through. A lot of things, but yes, we had a shorthand, and we had a lot of fun. And whenever I get a chance to see Rainbow, it's been a while, but I do love him, and I've gotten to know his sister through the course
Cree,
of
yeah,
absolutely, and they're wonderful, and even though I don't get to speak to either one of them that often, I still consider them to be family, and Rainbow certainly, yeah.
Paulie McGillian.
Oh gosh, yeah. So he was part of the trio, and he was like, yeah. As soon as I met Paul, it was like, oh my goodness, this relaxed kind of feel, like I just and then you can have fun. I'm one of those people who like it takes a minute to get to know me because I'm still kind of shy in many respects. Yeah. But every once in a while when you meet somebody like that, you kind of come out of your shell. And Paul is so funny, very, very, very bright, wonderful actor. And he likes to have fun, and we had so much fun together. and still do. Like when you had him on your show.
Oh my God.
And he talked about those pictures. And I hadn't seen those pictures in years. Like they were in a box in my garage. And I saw that somebody brought the episode to my attention, and I was like, gosh, I got to find them. And then of course I put them out there. And I remember putting them out there before I had reached out to him. And then I sent him a text, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope you're okay that I put those out there. And his first response was, Rachel, I'm furious with you. And I was
Sounds like Paul.
oh my gosh. And then about 5 minutes later, just kidding. Like, ah! But I mean, it's that kind of a rapport, which is great.
Those are on your Twitter, right? I think you posted the pictures okay.
I did.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so funny. I remember that was a vindication for me. It let me know that the show was working. Like in our second week, I was like, "Oh, this is too good."
Yes.
Oh,
and thank you for that, because I hadn't seen them forever, and there's some gold in there. There's still some.
Oh, absolutely.
Some gold.
That was a particularly difficult day for me, because there were some interview. I think it was Dean Devlin that I had next. Yeah, if that's right. And I was looking forward to this, but I was I think it was Dean. I was pretty intimidated because I'd never spent time. He created Stargate with Roland Emmerich. Right. And I brought Paul in that day because I knew that Paul would calm my nerves before I did it. And it was like, he did not disappoint. So that was very deliberate. But no, I love that, man.
Good, yeah.
You had an amazing relationship with Bam Bam, James Bamford, who was the fight coordinator for Atlantis. There was no fight coordinator for SG-1, but Atlantis was going to be so much more action oriented, and it was established very early on with Teyla that she had some form of martial arts background. And it was very clear, with your athleticism, that this was something very, like, I think in Suspicion, that it was very clear that it was going to work. Tell us about that relationship with James Bamford and how that grew Teyla's fighting style and her use of her Bantos rods and that whole sub arc that wound its way through the show.
Right, absolutely. So when I auditioned for Teyla, there was no mention of her being, a fighter at all. Like, she was kind of mystical, and she had these, intuitive powers. And of course, she was otherworldly human, but from a different galaxy. But there was no mention of her being, athletic necessarily. And when I met James, and he knew that I was a dancer. I had been a dancer for many, many years. He gave me my sticks, my fighting sticks, for the very first time. And I remember being so intimidated.
Really?
Oh my gosh. So scared. I'm like, what is this? And he taught me a simple pattern, And I went home, and I remember going over it like 100 times.
The drills?
At least 100 times. The drills over and over and over and over and over again. And then slowly he would add different things. And he was always so lovely, and he was always very much like a big brother. Who helped me work through that element of Teyla, which was such an enormous part of who she was. And I'm so grateful for that. And I loved all of the fight sequences, and I loved that she was so powerful and adept in that way. He helped develop this form of fighting, that kind of took from my dance background and married it with, all these different forms of martial arts, and created what Teyla, grew to be her own fighting style. And I very much loved working with James, and he was like a big brother, very protective.
I think that the thing that it wasn't really like surprising per se. It was kind of like, oh, you know what, that makes sense considering that this caliber of people is how tireless you and he both worked. Like, he would fill up his weekends and
Yeah.
as far as I was aware, you would as well. Just training,
Oh gosh,
depending
yeah.
if there was a major fight coming up, so that
Oh
it would
yeah.
be perfect
Dialed
when
in.
it would come time to shoot it. And just
Oh, 100%.
going that extra mile to take up valuable time that you had off to rest and recharge and learn lines and just drills to make that an amazing amazing product.
Well, thank you. Part of that was sheer terror. Listen, I was like, I have got to work on this so that when I get, on set and the lights are pointing and everything is going on, that I can just, it's all muscle memory. It had to get to a place where it was just part of who she was, and so subsequently part of who I was. But yeah, I worked very, very hard, and he helped me with that a lot. And I would wake up, this is before I had Caden, but I would wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I would jump rope for 30 minutes, and then I would do my, all of my other sit-ups and my, and my weights. And then I would always, like, every single day go through my drills with the sticks every single day. Like I would like check it off. Like I'd have to do it at least 40 times, at least every drill, so that it was just like, bah, 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 bah. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Those sticks are now in my son's room and Caden's room.
Don't break them.
You should be concerned about that.
I sold off so many sets of those. There was a couple of like harder plastic ones, and then the stunt ones. I mean, there were so many Bantos rods. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
What a trip. The pilot episode featured Robert Patrick and featured Andy Frizzell and James Lafazanos. Introducing this new alien species, in addition to your alien species, well, human but unearthly, as you once told me, which is true.
Right.
Tell us about filming that and working with that ensemble.
Oh my gosh! So yeah, I mean, that kicked it off, and I remember being like really, really nervous. I was really nervous, and I felt this great responsibility to, just bring Teyla to life and to inhabit her in a way that gave her the all due respect. And I remember being very, very nervous working on that particular episode and working with Robert Patrick. Oh my gosh, I was so intimidated. And I remember the very first time I met him, he came up to me and he put his hands together and he said, "Namaste." And I remember being like, "Oh, okay." You. Once again, a really nice guy. Thank goodness. There was something about Stargate that, I don't know, attracted some really good people. But I remember being very, very nervous about the whole thing. I remember it being very, very wet. I remember the jacket that I wore, that long coat, and running. So many moments kind of stand out to me. But it was great. I mean, what a fabulous ensemble. A lot of it, though, I remember just being, oh my gosh, you just got to get through this, get through it, work. And, but it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was, Stargate wasn't just a pilot. It was greenlit to series right away. I mean, I can imagine getting into that and being up there and being like, okay, we've got to make this work for 20 episodes,
Yeah.
Got to make it happen. Were you aware? I got to ask you this. Were you aware of when did you become aware of Teyla, the origin of Teyla's name?
Oh,
did you know right away? Because I didn't until just recently.
No, I didn't. I think maybe the end of the first season. I mean, it was a while. I just assumed that, this is like a fun name that you guys made up. But yeah, so cool.
So for those who are not in the know, Teyla Emmagan is a combination of 4 daughters, 2 of Brad Wright and 2 of Robert C. Cooper that created that name. So I love that little nugget.
Yeah, very, very cool.
There were aspects of the character. She was in many respects the Teal'c of Atlantis. She was the outside observer of humanity, And I wish that there had, I mean, we can always woulda, shoulda, coulda, but I wish that there had been a little bit more of that. I mean, it was established in the pilot that she had not just a great athletic acumen, but an unusual one. She could run extremely fast. And there's a line where John is like telling her to slow down. It's because he literally cannot keep up with her. There's something about her that is unusual. We'll eventually find out that she's part Wraith. What was it like going through that journey of evolving that character and adding those layers and watching some pieces, not get carried forward, like the running aspect and others, but building that character on over the course of that first year and then ultimately the 5 seasons of the show?
Oh my goodness. Wonderful. I mean, listen, I consider it a great honor to have been able to portray Teyla, and I loved her. I loved her. She married elements of myself, obviously with elements that were created in the writer's room. But, every time there was an episode that highlighted another aspect of who she was, it helped me to, just better understand her, and so subsequently flesh her out in more colorful ways. But I mean, all of it was wonderful. I remember the gift particularly stands out. I loved that episode, and I loved how that just influenced so much of who she was. Teyla was just a wonderfully fun character to portray because she was so well-rounded. I mean, she was this wonderfully well-rounded female character who was not just, this woman in crop tops. She was very smart, pragmatic, strong. She wasn't moved to anger that quickly, but if you did anger her, be careful about it. I loved growing within Teyla. And I loved subsequently how the two of us, myself as well as the characters, started to merge together, particularly in the last couple of seasons with the birth of my son.
It influenced the scripts.
Yeah, and how they ran with it. They ran with it, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
You were pregnant with Caden through season 4. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you give them enough heads up to let them decide if they were going to work it into the script or not, or if they were just going to shoot around it? I mean, how does something like that come about when you're involved with the production? How does that work? Obviously, I'm sure you're not contracted to tell them. Well, if you're pregnant, you have to tell us. How does that work so that they have time to work it into a story?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I mean, we went into production, I believe it was like late February for the seasons. And I had a conversation with them end of January.
Okay.
And I remember the very first person who I reached out to was Amanda Tapping. She had gone through a pregnancy in SG1, and she was lovely and so helpful to me. And the day that I went in to tell all of our writers and producers, etc., about my pregnancy, she actually showed up. She was there. And I remember it was so wonderful. Before I went upstairs to talk to them, she had a little chat with me. She gave me a big hug, and that was really wonderful. There was this really great camaraderie between performers, but I went upstairs and I let them know, and it was not the direction that they were thinking that they were going to go in for Teyla at all. But, they had a little bit of time and they ran with it, and they made some really, really great storylines from that, I think. And I, for forever am going to be grateful to them for how they grew the character through, through that season. Yeah, it was pretty great.
Overall in the role, you started off with a different wig, and you ended up with one that was shorter.
I started off, listen, I had so many. I had a whole bunch. I had a whole bunch, yes.
And the costumes, were they an aid to creating the character? Did they drive you nuts? Both?
I loved going into the wardrobe department. I loved it. And they brought me in on a lot of the decisions, the fabrics and the colors and the textures and the feel and how long. And I loved that element, and it helped me to inform who Teyla was as well. The hair thing, there can be like a whole episode on hair because that was just like, ooh. We were talking earlier on about how Vancouver can be very, very rainy, very, very dark and rainy. My hair is naturally curly. So if we are out in the pouring rain, it wants to go. It just does. It's like.
Was your own hair out of the question from day one, or was there some consideration into trying to make it work?
It was always, it's interesting. It was always a wig.
Yeah.
It was always a wig. Which I didn't mind because of the fact that Teyla was meant to be human and yet otherworldly. It kind of helped me to. Okay. It did. But yeah, I did go through a lot of incarnations of hair until we finally settled on one. And that particular wig was like something like $10,000.
Hair's expensive.
Hair's expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a group of fans who have been wanting to get some questions answered from you here. Cool. We have 160 concurrent viewers right now. So Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you, fans, for tuning in. Teresa McAllister would like to know. And so we're going to kind of step all over the show at this point in different aspects, more than I did for my questions, but I knew that this was coming.
Cool.
Did you have any input for the romantic direction for Teyla, who, of course, ended being with Kanan?
Yes.
Because the baby had to have a daddy. So.
Exactly.
But yeah, where did you have any input for that process along the way?
No. Actually, I did not. I did not. That was something that, they guarded in the writer's room. And I know they toyed at different, does Teyla like so-and-so? Is there a chemistry over here? They played with that element. But no, I didn't really have much to do with it. And I didn't have anything to do with the hiring process.
Okay.
No, although I'm thrilled where it landed. Yeah. Patrick Sabungi is a wonderful actor and a generous performer, and so it was lovely that he ended up being Kanan. But no, I didn't have anything to do with that. No.
If you did, I'm curious if you did, who, if anyone? Well, I mean, obviously the baby would have had to have a father once we established that she was pregnant. Who would you have wanted it to be? Would you have wanted it to be Shepard or someone else from the Atlantis expedition, or did it make sense that it was another Athosian?
Yeah, boy, I'm stepping on minefields there, so I'm almost gonna stay out of it.
Okay.
But I have to answer. I think in the end it did make sense that it was another Athosian. I think in the end that it did, due to her attachment to her people, etc. Yeah, that made sense to me. There was this speech that was never part of the show, but it was part of my audition, and it was it talked a lot about Teyla's father and her legacy, and so that was always like a really big part of who she was. But yeah, I mean, I know fans have their favorites.
Oh boy, do they! My gosh.
Yeah.
Chris Gartland, what was it like filming while pregnant? And have your kids watched any of Atlantis?
Oh my goodness. Thank you very much for that wonderful question. Okay, so I remember so many times being pregnant and doing like these, very physical scenes. And having, somebody from upstairs come down and be like, yeah, when my wife was pregnant, she just slept all day. And I was like, oh God, I am tired, but
I'm bringing home the bacon.
Right? I remember one of our camera ops saying a similar thing. I had this scene where I had to like run and run and run. And he was like, yeah, my wife liked to, like snuggle down when she was pregnant and I like, obviously if I had the opportunity to do so, I probably would have done that too. So that presented a challenge for sure. There was a big fight sequence and I wish I could remember the episode. I should have thought of that prior to this.
Who was it with?
Oh, good grief. Jewel.
Okay.
Jewel and I.
Yeah,
right?
that was the Lost, or the Lost.
Yeah.
It's, yes, yeah. Just before she finds out.
Exactly. And I had this big fight sequence, and I knew I was pregnant, obviously. And it was like one of the biggest ones that I had to do ever, with so many different adversaries. And I remember crying and crying and crying on my way home, thinking, oh my gosh, did I do something detrimental? I didn't. Caden's fine. Have my children watched the show? They've seen like a couple of episodes. They are unimpressed. They're just like,
oh my God.
Yeah, Mom, whatever. They're just like, whatever. It's so funny. I feel like, one day they'll go back and be like, oh.
They're young. They'll appreciate it, I think, as adults.
Yeah, eventually. But for now, no.
The episode is Missing, where you and Jewel.
It's
Missing. That's a good episode. You dig the rubber squid out of the floor and have a bite of it.
Yes. Oh man, Jewel is another one who we had a lot of fun with. Yeah.
Yes. Tell me about welcoming in cast members like Amanda Tapping and Jewel Staite.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
And Jason. Oh my God. Everyone's probably shrieking in the chat about Jason.
Oh my gosh. So many. Yeah, Jason. Oh gosh. It was wonderful. He to me was always like this giant puppy dog. Jason was just this giant puppy dog. And I will always love Jason. Beyond the performances and when everything's quiet, he just has this really generous and lovely.
He's soulful.
His
guitar.
Yeah, and he's just a very lovely soul. So yeah, that was lovely welcoming him in. It was sad because we said goodbye to Rainbow, but Jason brought a whole other aspect to it, and always loved Jason, and yes, Jewel. I met Jewel before she joined us as a series regular. She was
Elia.
I'm forgetting the name of that episode.
It was it was the two-parter, and
yes.
It was for Pete's sake, come on! It's the
Sweet
werewolf episode. It's Instinct.
Exactly. That's it. And I remember sitting with Jewel in between takes and her sweetly saying to me, they told me that it was just going to be a little bit of prosthetics. She was like, I thought it was going to be like maybe some cute ears. And I'm like, oh gosh. So we had some laughs over that. But yeah, we always had some giggles, Jewel and I. She's got a lovely sense of humor as well. And Amanda, as I said, Amanda's great. And I will always have so much respect for her, for what she did to me during that, helped me with rather, when I was pregnant, for what she did to me. That's not what I meant. How she helped me navigate that as an actress who was pregnant. She was very generous and lovely and a wonderful performer. Yeah, I think I've diverged. I don't know what we're talking about.
No, you're absolutely right. You're right. You're completely on it. You welcomed in Robert Picardo as a series regular in season 5, but he had definitely been in there prominently as Richard Woolsey. Tell us a little bit about Bob.
Oh, Bob. When I think of Bob, I think of pizza. I went over to his house a couple times in Pasadena, and he had this pizza oven, and he was very, very, about making his pizza. And Every once in a while, I hear things that Bob said to me. As a dad, he would say things like, and I remember the other day I was cooking broccoli for the kids, and I remember him once saying, "Don't you ever boil your vegetables, Rachel?" And I was just like, and literally, I heard Bob saying that to me as I was like making broccoli for the kids. I was like, "Yes, that's right, Bob, that's right." It's so funny. I know, like for the fans, they're like, but you guys were working together. But of course, I remember him as just a lovely guy.
You were working together, but you were living together too on that set, for most of the live-long days. So
absolutely,
makes sense.
So thank goodness we actually got along with each other. Yeah. Bob was great, and Bob actually helped me with a couple of other projects of mine that haven't gotten off the ground yet. But he was always very generous in terms of like coming over to the house and helping with table reads of scripts that I had written. He would just, he'd be there in a flash. There were a couple of things that I was trying to shoot, and Bob was always happy to be there and to help us with those things. So he's lovely. Yeah.
The caliber of talent that was always brought in for Stargate was pretty much unmatched. The quality of people, and I think that comes from the top. I think that starts with Brad and Rob, and the team that they built. There's something to be said for a consummate group of professionals who were just willing to give it their all for the course of, 360 some odd hours of television. It's just crazy. Right?
Absolutely. And just in that breath, I also want to give a little tip of my hat to Connor Trenier, who we also welcomed into the cast. And
so good.
Oh my gosh. What a wonderful actor. There's this wonderful thing that happens when you're energetically bouncing off of another actor, and then the lines and everything is kind of it's just this, and that's how I felt with Connor, like immediately. We were just like, it was just kind of, it's great, magical, because he's just this wonderful, wonderful actor. And once again, really nice guy. Thank God. I mean, thank goodness I'm not like, that person was a great actor, but a real jackass.
Well, he was key to, I mean, he was so integral to your story as well.
Yes,
I mean, I'm sure you could have made it work if he was a jackass, but it's so nice that he wasn't.
True. Yes, true. It might have added layers to, Teyla's ire of Michael, but no, but it was so fun whenever he joined. Yeah. He was
it's so funny, Rachel, going with you through all these memories. I mean, no production is perfect. It, I know it. And we kind of have to like wink and nudge, as we go through some of this stuff, because not all of it was perfect all the time. And there were some people who wouldn't show up with their lines memorized. And there were some days that were just excruciating. And we're supposed to go like, oh, it was so amazing, but it's human beings who are doing the best that they can.
Yes. And, come on. Yes. And as a family, because we were like a family, every once in a while there would be like moments of like, oh, come on now.
Absolutely.
Where you have to set the boundaries and people straight.
At the end of the day, you have to make the day. And, it all will come out in the wash in the end.
That's so funny. That reminds me of something that David used to say all the time. Sometimes he would just be like so annoyed. People would say, cut on a scene, moving on. And he'd be like, nothing fell down. I guess we're moving on. It's like, David. Am I not going to get another take on that? Nothing fell down in the back, so I guess we're moving on.
I can't imagine what it must have been like for him to he's not just delivering dialogue. He's putting gas into the car that's making it go down the road. Yes. That is not an easy thing to do. And Rainbow was very open in saying, sometimes he let people know, how frustrating that was. And I honestly can't blame him.
Gosh, absolutely. Like, God, can you guys just stop, messing around for a moment so we can, do this?
He's got to get it out. He's got to get the information out and in the right order.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not only that, but he infused it with character and with like interesting character quirks. And it was just like, first of all, it is so hard to deliver exposition. Information that moves the story forward, but is not necessarily, the fine tissue between characters and
Yeah, it's not what we're tuning in for. It's to propel the story. So we
exactly,
watch
and
the
it's hard,
characters.
precisely, and to deliver that in a way that is like engaging. Whew, but he did it. He did it. And yeah, there would be moments where Jason would show up on occasion, and he would look at me. He would see like David had like a chunk of dialogue, and he'd say, "Hey, Rach, how many lines do you got?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I think I've got two." And he's like, "Yeah, I say a word." And then David would be like, "Shut up! Just shut up!"
Oh God, I'll never forget the line. And I'm sorry, fans. I'll definitely get to your questions here. I'll never forget the scene. Martin Garrow and I were fairly tight during some of those years, and he sent me a page. I'm sure he wasn't supposed to do this, but he said, "Tell me what you think." And it's the scene from First Strike, because he was like, "There's no way this is gonna make it. We're gonna run out of time." We'd run out of time under normal circumstances. This is a season finale. And it's the scene of all of you out on the balcony where Ronan says, "I need to learn some science." And Joe starts talking about, we're the Fantastic Four. And Teyla says, "Why do you get to be Mr. Fantastic?" Fantastic.
Yes,
It was those little character moments that, for a more action-oriented show, those scenes would just suffer. They frequently didn't get to make it in. And those were the scenes that were so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So many good things. I had a thought and it's gone out of my head. I was like, oh, I got to share this thing. It'll come back.
It will. Just stop me when it does.
Okay.
Glenn Hellwig, did you do most of your own stunts, especially in the fight scenes? And if so, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. What training did you have to do?
I did. Yes, listen, I did all of the fight sequences. I did have a wonderful stunt double, Lonnie Galera, who, she took the heavy hits. Hat off to her. Every time I had to fall hard on the ground or what have you, boom, Lonnie was there. I took it very seriously to learn the choreography and to get it down. And because my background is dance, for me, it was an outcropping of choreography as a dancer. So yes, every single fight sequence that Teyla did, I did. Every single hard hit, Lonnie was there to help with, and she also had to learn the choreography, and she would definitely do the choreography as well. And sometimes like the heavy hits, if like I was fighting with Jason and Jason really wanted to boom against the wall, Lonnie would do it. Yeah, so I am married to, and I'm getting a coffee. My wonderful husband.
Aww.
I am married to a stunt performer, a fight coordinator, an incredibly talented man. And so when it comes to talking about fight sequences, I always tip my hat to the stunt performers. And man, they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve so much credit, especially in an action-driven show. So much of it is driven by their talent and their work ethic, etc. So yes,
that can't be a coincidence that you connected with him. You being as athletic as you are. Was there some kind of a connection there between your stunt work in Atlantis and meeting your husband?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, okay, so back to Jason joining the cast. Shortly after he joined the cast, I took Jason out for dinner because I was like, I really want Jason to feel comfortable.
Of course, yeah. He's the new kid on the block.
Yeah, he's the new kid on the block. So it was just me and Jason. I took him out for dinner, and we got a text from James, and he was like, "Hey, we're going to be meeting at this. I can't remember where it was. The Canby. I think it was the Canby. Kind of like this divey place. Maybe it isn't anymore. Sorry, Canby. For like drinks, and then maybe go dancing. And so Jason and I were like, sure, why not? We'll go. So we went and we met James there, and we were all having some beers and just having fun because thank God we actually enjoyed, each other's company off the set as well. And that's where I met my husband. He was a stunt performer and he knew James, and he happened to be there. And it was kind of like, ooh, at first sight, I was kind of like, what is happening? Oh no. And then yes, and he did perform on the show. That was certainly part of why we bonded. But another part of why we bonded is he spent his first few years as a child in Africa, in different parts of Africa, Nigeria and South Africa, and of course I'm from Tanzania. We had all these other like little symbiotic things that brought us together.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, hats off to the stunt department.
Oh my gosh, man! Oh man, Aaron Banks. I'm curious your thought on this. If there was any one thing that you could change about the character in hindsight, what if anything, what would it be?
All right. Well, I mean, I don't want to sound trite, but there isn't really anything that I would change. I wouldn't change anything about Teyla. It would have been nice to have added more.
I was about to say, I
Yeah.
mean, if we're going to address if there is any kind of elephant in this room, in my opinion, it's that there wasn't enough utilization of you. And I don't attribute that to one person or writer or anything else. It was just how it turned out. It just felt, Rachel, like you were underutilized.
But you did for saying that. Yeah, I mean, to answer the question, there isn't anything that I would change about who Teyla was. I think that she was a magnificent character, and I loved playing her. But yes, to your point, I mean, my heart kind of bleeds a little bit in the sense that I wish that there was so much more that I would have enjoyed doing, so much, and discovering about that character and c'est la vie, c'est la
No,
vie.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have to do what you can with what you've been given. Rainbow and I definitely talked about this, and how he had a frustration that his interesting stuff was after he left. Characters are created with the best of intentions, and sometimes the pieces just don't all go together with what comes out later. But I mean, and then it come at season 5. I think if there had been a season 6, I think that it would have been, frankly, a huge Teyla season with what was introduced with you in season 5 with the Queen, with really leveraging that Wraith aspect of yourself. And that's one of the things that I want to talk with you about in more detail in the future, because that was so cool. That episode with you in full prosthetics is one of my favorites. And we're really getting into the minutia of that species, and it's a good one.
Yes, it is. There's so much that I can say about the Queen. I don't know if we have time.
Give us a nugget.
So on a personal level, I discovered that I was going to be the Queen at a large dinner with all the cast and writers, producers, etc. And they let it slip. Hey, we've got this great episode coming up. I was a new mom. I had an infant, and I begged them, please, no, don't make me be in full prosthetic. I was still nursing. I was just like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. So I remember putting like avocado on my face at home to just try not to scare Caden. Just like, this is how mommy's going to be. I had so much angst around it. I was like, this is going to be the worst. And on the first day of filming, I have to get there at like 3:30 in the morning because it takes forever to put that
in and get out. According to Andy, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm there with my little one, and my mother-in-law is there helping me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going in, like, we get one layer on. I go in to see Caden. In the end, my little guy literally laughed. He thought it was hysterical.
Fantastic.
He thought it was hysterical. Thank goodness I've got these pictures of me nursing as a Wraith. I do. But I loved portraying that character. When all was said and done, and I knew that everything was fine in terms of me personally, blah, 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 I loved portraying her. The energy for her just sat in a completely different place. Yeah. The power, it was just, the switch was so amazing. And I credit that on so many levels to our amazing makeup artists and wardrobe and everything. Oh my goodness, it came together in the most powerful way. And when I I had it all on. It just felt so. I love you, Sweet Pea, and your shoes look amazing. I love you. My little one just came in to show me her new shoes. But yes, I loved portraying her, and yeah, that would have been something amazing. I mean, we were just starting to learn so many incredible aspects of. Yeah.
We'll talk about it more for sure. Let me see here. Aaron Banks. Oh no, I just already answered him. Claire Burr. A tough one, I'm sure. Favorite episode or film to watch, or both, and any guest star that stood out that was your favorite to work with. So any favorite episode of Stargate Atlantis that you enjoyed watching. Did you watch the show as it aired?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, like for me, it's hard for me to watch myself.
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy watching myself. Now that there's been so much time.
Look how young I look.
Exactly. Damn, I was cute.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
You're still great.
What an idiot. Anyway, favorite episode. It's a really hard one. It's a really hard one. Like, you have to imagine, everybody knows, but it's like 20 episodes, 5 years. It's really hard to find a favorite episode.
It's fair.
For me, episodes, and I can look to every single episode and point out why I loved that episode. Yeah. It was either like the interaction behind the scenes, or a scene within the episode, actually getting to work with an actor who I didn't get to work with that much. I remember, near the end of the show, David and I talked about how, gosh, it would have been wonderful if we had more moments as characters to just have, some McKay Teyla stuff.
The scene of him serving you tea in Dow of Rodney is wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But so all of the episodes are wonderful for different reasons, for different memories for me. And I don't mean for that to be a cop out, but it's true. It really is true. And then in terms of like guest stars that stand out.
We've talked about Connor a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's hard. I don't even consider him a guest star. Like, he was just such an integral part, and I loved performing. Yeah, with Connor. That's a tricky one. Ooh, those are gorgeous shoes too. Come and say hello.
Aww.
Just come and say hello.
Just come and say hello.
Come.
Hi.
Ridley.
How are you, Ridley?
Good.
I just saw you on television last week. Did you like your commercial?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Well, very good. You want to do more commercials? You want to do more TV? Any film? Wow, that's terrific. You were so good.
Yeah, so we're gonna watch out for Ridley. Okay, I'm so sorry, but yes, Connor. We had some wonderful guest stars. Oh my goodness! If I had a little bit more time to actually really think about that and give you a really, really solid answer. And then what was the last portion of his Bye Sweet Love? What was the last portion of his question?
Any specific actors that were your favorites to work with?
I loved working with Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
He certainly stands out. Richard Kind was really fun to work with. Oh my gosh. So many.
Richard Kind was great. We'll have you back. We can go through some of these in more detail. I can't wait.
We had some amazing actors join us.
Yeah.
With such incredible careers behind them. What a gift. But yeah. The whole show is a gift.
Switching gears, Keith Homel wants to know any moments with fans that stand out. I know there are kids that have been born with the name of Teyla. I mean, there's a huge fan interest in this show. Any particular moments with fans that stand out over the years? I hate asking this question because it's such a broad brush stroke. But if there is anything that comes down from the ether.
Oh my gosh. Let me just say that I have had so many wonderful interactions with fans. And I have never once had like a bad interaction with a fan. They've always been just so beautifully positive and um, so forthcoming in terms of how the character and the show have influenced them. I remember the first time somebody told me that they had named their child Teyla,
Oh, yeah.
and I was just, I mean, I didn't, it's very, very hard to like even articulate how that feels. It's so humbling and it's such an incredible honor. Um, I remember, countless people telling me that the show helped them get through like a really, really hard time, even like an illness or just a bad time in their life, and how it just helped them to get through so many moments of, I mean, my goodness. And for me, I muddle through my days as a mom. I obviously I'm an artist and I'm an actor, but I spend a lot of my time navigating through as a mom, and so every once in a while, I will meet somebody and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, are you?" And it always takes me by surprise because I'm kind of like, "Well, I'm just Rachel and I'm a mom." But it's like moments like that that just kind of take me by surprise, and it's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then it reminds me, what a gift this is. That happened to me the other day. I was taking Caden to get Chick-fil-A.
Gotta
And there
love me
was
some
this,
Chick-fil-A.
hello, hello,
That Chick-fil-A
exactly.
sauce is where it's at.
Well, you and Caden.
Okay. It's like 150 calories a tub. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, anyway. And there was this young girl, like she must have been, she was a teenager. And she was taking my order and I had my mask on.
Yeah.
And she was like, "So can I have a name?" And I said, Rachel. And she was, but it takes me by surprise, and just her reaction and her effusive, beautiful comments about the show and how much it means to her.
She was a fan.
Yeah, there are two. So in short, there are too many for me to isolate just one. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely. What did you think, Michelle Palmer, what did you think about the relationship between Teyla and Michael? I think we touched on it a little bit, but not in terms of Connor and Rachel. But the relationship with Teyla and Michael was a complicated one, and it was a sick one. I mean, but there were so many layers to that.
Yes, it was not a healthy relationship, but I loved how multifaceted it was, and I think in the hands of maybe another actor, it wouldn't have been as rich and as colorful. But Connor just brought so many layers to it, and it was wonderful. I loved the interaction between Teyla and Michael. I loved how broad and, as you said, unhealthy,
Weird obsession. Yeah.
yeah, but it was terrific. I loved it. I loved it. It gave me great pleasure to perform those scenes, and whenever there was a Teyla Michael moment, I loved it. Yeah, I was sad to see him go, and I was like, well, maybe
Connor
he
still
could come
doesn't
back.
believe it. He still can't believe it. It's like, no. He was
Yeah.
too intelligent to have been mated, checkmated into that
Exactly,
situation.
exactly. I know exactly. Had it continued, we hadn't seen, I don't think, the
I
end
don't
of
think so either. No, but made for a good hour of television.
it. Sure did.
That
Sure
fight
did.
sequence on the roof is just fantastic, and
Right?
you're wondering how's it going to go, because these people don't they value all life, but you
Yes.
see it running through Tayla's head, knowing how many civilizations of people he has destroyed, of people that they knew and worked with, that
Yeah,
he turned
yeah.
into bugs and innocent
Oh
slaves
my God.
across the Pegasus Galaxy that he turned into his henchmen. You see that
Right,
process through her mind when he's begging to get helped up, and she
Yes.
says no.
No.
Well, she
And I
doesn't say
think
no. She kicks him off.
exactly. But I think one of the main reasons is that mom,
Yeah.
right? And
I didn't bring that one up.
she was
That's
expecting
right.
her little one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. Yeah, you can be the most rational person. Don't you? Don't you? Don't you?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Don't you? Yeah, come anywhere between me and my little one. But yeah, that was a great hour of television.
It was. Natalia Elsick, how much time, we know we started at 3 a.m. How much time would it take to get transformed into the queen? So you would arrive at set at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, like 3:30 in the morning, and then I would be on set by like 8. Wow. It took a long time. It took a long, long time. Yeah. I was just kind of patiently lying there while they worked their magic. It was like layer upon layer upon layer, and then like your nails, your teeth, the skin, the hair, your eyes. Woo! It was a very, very intricate process.
And to think that was 5 years into the Wraith design, that was the advanced stage of makeup that they had developed. And how long would it take to come out of that? And the chemicals that you'd have to use on your skin. How long was that process?
Exactly. It was about half the time of getting into it, but it still took forever. Yeah, it still took forever. Yeah, it an entailed process, very entailed. Yeah.
Russell Baldwin, any specific fond memory from Stargate, either on or off the screen?
Goodness gracious.
Let me narrow it down for you. Any with Richard Kind?
Any with Richard Kind. I mean, listen, he was just a funny, kooky, fabulous guy. I mean, that episode in particular, and this memory doesn't involve Richard, it involves the rest of us. The first time we saw the set for Mr. Wonderful.
Irresistible.
Mr. Irresistible. We all kind of like looked at it, and it just looked like this, musical theater set piece. And so we were all kind of dancing around the sets. If you can imagine David Hewlett singing and peeking out behind things. I mean, I remember that. I remember, I just remember having a great deal of fun. Any moments that stand out? Yes, that one in particular, for sure. A moment, the very first time that we were all in the puddle jumper together, certainly stands out because we hadn't gotten it down. Like, if an explosion hits you, where are we all going? The first time that happened, I flew backwards, Joe flew forward, Rainbow was a different way, somebody was on the ground, and I remember, I think it was Martin Wood, I think it was, and he was like, guys, if it hits you from this side, let's all decide how we're going to react to the impact. Right? So it was, learning that kind of stuff, that stands out. All the moments that we were acting to, like, green screens for something that our visual effects artists would paint in later that would be like huge and monumental that we had to like react to. Just great camaraderie with my family of actors. When we found out that the show wasn't going to be continuing, big moment for all of us. So many moments. The episode where we said goodbye to David. Not David. Paul. Sunday.
Oh man.
Huge. Like, that was. I remember that one. That one certainly stands out. We were all feeling so emotional, like truly emotional. Countless wonderful memories that stand out. Yeah.
Did you, Philip Dos Santos? Did you keep anything on from the set, besides the Bantos rods?
I don't know if you've heard this story. I think you have. No, I didn't. Okay, so because Wardrobe, bless them. They were like, Rachel, we're going to give you as much as we can. Don't worry about it. It's going to be yours. Of course, it all ended up being sold.
Auctioned off. Yeah, sorry, my
Auctioned
fault.
off. I didn't get anything. I do have a couple of my beautiful coats that were gifted back to me by fans during conventions. Oh my gosh, like one of my very favorite ones. I've got her back. So that's wonderful. But no, I didn't take anything. I am I'm too much of a good girl. I'm too much of like no guys, let's not do that. And now I realize I wish I hadn't, because Jason wasn't that guy, and he took as much as he could. He had like burlap sacks full of things. He was just like, I am not even kidding. And in fact, okay, so here's the funny thing, and some of you may have heard me tell this story, maybe some of you hadn't. It was years later, a couple of years after the show had ended, and I was actually over at Jason's house, and we were talking about that, all the stuff that he took, because it was like all lying there. He's got so much stuff. And I said, I didn't even get my chair back. Like, I didn't even get like Teyla with like, it was gone. And he started laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? Turns out he had stolen my chair. He'd taken my chair. And it took him 2 years to finally give it back to me. So I got nothing.
You got your chair back.
Okay.
Back.
Yeah, I got the chair back, and as I said, yes, I've got 2 of my coats back. So slowly but surely, I'm getting some pieces back. It pays to be nice.
Melody Young, I remember seeing a lot of clips from cons where Joe and Jason described you as being such a good sport, as a stunt punching bag, from all the fights that you did. Were there any mishaps? And she says, Rachel, you always look so badass. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Every once in a while, I would think that the contact would be made. There would be an actual hit.
Yeah. I mean, listen. For the most part, I'm happy to say that for the most part, there were not a lot of contacts. Like I didn't often get bruised or hurt. In fact, hardly at all. There was one moment. I think it was early on. I think it might have been like season 2, when Jason had joined us, and I was particularly tired, and they had scheduled the fight sequence at the end of the day. So I was really really tired. We'd done a number of scenes, and then I had to do this action sequence. It didn't happen after that. After that, it was like, we're going to schedule fight sequences near the beginning of the day when everybody's fresh. But I was tired, and I didn't bring up a block, and I got nailed in the face, and it was like, boo! Saw stars, and my face swelled up, and I shook it off, and we continued, and we got it. That was
okay.
One. Yeah, that was one. I did get kicked in the head, actually, in the fight sequence in Missing when I was pregnant. That was bad. But when you're talking about 5 years of 20 episodes. Two moments, and then the third moment was in, oh my goodness, gosh, what, I'm trying to remember the name of the episode.
Situation.
I don't know if it was Lost Boys.
Okay.
Jason and I had a fight. Jason
over
and I had
the dining room table.
Dining room table.
Yeah, with like food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had to throw a punch, and I actually nailed him. Boom, in the eye, gave Jason an enormous black eye. That was the other, foible. And I'm going to say it, because he knows it's true. He did not take kindly to it. He was not at all happy that I and the next day I brought him flowers. Like, come on. Forgive me, for God's sake. Here's some flowers. So three moments stand out where there was some pain.
In the scheme of things, it's amazing that more didn't happen over the course of so many hours. It's a testament to the preparedness of that team to get everything right. Exactly. Right? 3 moments in 5 years of 20 episodes is a pretty good track record. I would say so. Last question from Adam Dramota. Would you return to Stargate? Brad White's, trying to get another show off the ground. I've been calling it SG4. And
Yeah.
there's a possibility of, some prior faces. Either, I don't know what the exact plan is, but they're keeping
Right.
that door open. Would you be open to returning?
Of course. I have nothing but good memories. So yeah, I mean, of course I would. Yeah, why not? Why not? I loved her. I really, I don't know anything about it, except for the kernels that I hear. I don't know if you heard that. That was Caden. The natives are getting restless.
Yeah, we're about to let you go.
But I most certainly would. Yes.
Well, you know what? There is every chance that that's going to happen in the next, at some point here in the future. Right? We're all hoping and praying, despite everything that's going on here, that MGM, just like every other studio, is going to weather the storm and, want to bring back Stargate. So, Rachel, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you. I have to say, honestly, I really do believe this has like been one of my loveliest interviews. You are just delightful. And I so appreciate your energy. No, seriously, it comes across so beautifully. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for just being so lovely and for your very, very thoughtful questions.
It's absolutely a pleasure. And thanks to all the fans who contributed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. As I said before, this is a long-term project, and I would love to have you back next year as we go into specific episodes through this journey.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
Count me in.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You take care of yourself, and you have a great holiday season, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Okay, you too. And bye, everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Rachel Luttrell, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Dial the Gate. Rachel has always been one of my favorites, and it's just a treat to have her on. It's a treat to have any of them on, but particularly Rachel, definitely. Before I let you guys go, I have some fan art to share. And I saw this on social media a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I've got to have it for this episode. This was created by Astrid V. And the artwork is entitled, "The Woods Are Haunted, Dark and Deep." I don't believe it's from any specific episode, but it is one of the coolest images that I've seen produced by the fan community. I love her use of color. It looks like she's created it on, cardboard. It's just it's a beautiful piece. It was created apparently for Les Starr as part of the Sticks and Snark Rodney Teyla Thing-a-thon on Live Journal. So thank you, Astrid V, for this beautiful composition. And before we let you go, if you like what you've seen in this episode, I would appreciate it if you would click that like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing the video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. If you plan to watch live, I recommend giving the bell icon a click so you'll be the first to know of any schedule changes, which will happen now and again. And bear in mind, clips from this live stream will be appearing on gateworld.net and ultimately Dial the Gate as we sort out the YouTube channels, as we sort out the clips process, which I'm still working on. So for next week, our guests are Jay Acavone. All of our guests are Sunday, December the 6th. Jay Acavone will be joining us at 11 a.m. Pacific time to talk about Kowalski. Darren Sumner of GateWorld.net and my moderator Ian will be joining us for Stargate Trivia, the second round at 1 p.m. Join us in the live chat because after we give each other our questions, the questions from the audience, the trivia questions, will be breaking. We'll be ending the trivia challenge. So come with some hard Stargate questions. No number questions, please, for the love of Pete. David Nickel will be joining us at 3 p.m. on Pacific time on Sunday, December the 6th to discuss Zelenka. That's all I have for you right now. In just a few moments, we are going to be welcoming in my friend Alexis Cruz to discuss Stargate, the feature film, and the TV series Stargate SG-1, his role of Skara. and also as Chlorel. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is David Reed. This is Dial the Gate. We'll see you on the other side.